Welcome to episode 50 of Run It Straight, where we answer your questions about how to get better at rugby league. We don't sidestep the difficult topics, but rather give direct, straight up answers. In essence, we run it straight. How you going, Cal?
Good, yourself?
Good. Episode 50, 50, big one.
50.
Let's jump straight in. Okay, so first question. What do coaches mean by more engagement as a winger? Are they talking about carries? I'm 16, 6'2", and 85 kilos, trying for mats. All right.
It's good height and weight.
Yeah, no, it really is.
Yeah.
Look, absolutely, carries is one of the big things that they're talking about. When they mention engagement, carries a big part of it. In times past, this is even probably pre your time, do you remember Lottie Takiri?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
yeah, so times past, the winger's job was basically just to hold his width near the sideline, catch the ball at the end of a back's movement, try and score tries. And, you know, they didn't really do too much. Even a lot of times, some of them held up in the line and it was the fullback who was taking all the kicks. But when Wendell Saylor came through at Brisbane, he really started to change. And then they had Lottie Takiri. So at one point, the Broncos had two big, fast, strong wingers who were quick, but they were also big-bodied to take hit-ups. And it really turned a winger to sometimes taking on the role of a forward. So when you're coming out of your red zone, or sometimes even on general play sets that are starting from a kick, so they're not from a set start, it's just a general play. You know, you have a set, they have a set, you have a set. The winger's job is to get back, take scoots or to take hit-ups so that the middle forwards can kind of stay in that middle third of the field, catch their breath and get set so that they're able to defend and still have some gas left over. Yep. Anything you want to jump in with on that one?
No, so a real good example of wingers who do that is Penrith. Penrith,
Yep.
To'o and Taruva at the moment. They've been very good at it, and Penrith have been very good at it for a while. If you watch how they play, the first 4 carries of a set will more than likely be outside backs. It'll be the 2 wingers, 2 centres, maybe Dylan Edwards might have a carry in one of them. And that's how they all get 20 carries a game, 200 plus running metres. So definitely, if you're talking about engagement, taking runs out of your end, out of your yardage sets,
is the number one thing.
Is going to be the big thing. Another thing as well, in defence, just make sure whatever tackles you're going to be making and have chances to make, you're going to make. You want to be at 100% at least tackle efficiency.
Yeah. I mean, you miss a tackle or try get scored. It's that simple. So
yeah.
It's got to be on point.
Yeah.
On top of the carries, when we're looking at attack, if you are working from a set start, if you know that the first shift is going to be going away from you, then come in and run with those. If that's when, you know, your middles and your back rollers might be taking those hit-ups, go in and support them. Obviously, the fullback should be floating around, but if it's right near your edge, yeah, you can float in 10, 15 metres, it's fine, and just back them up, support them. You might support them 9 times and nothing happens, but on the 10th time, there's 2-3 guys that are in there on a front row. He's got his right hand free, and you're either there or you're not. If you're there and he gets it free, all you got is a couple of slow, tight forwards, and then you're off in the clear. But if you're not, you're back on your wing, and you're like, oh, gee, it would have been good if you had some support. Just standing there on your wing catching a cold. So you have to find ways to get yourself involved. Obviously, if it's on the other side of the field and they're getting set up to come for a shift your way, you're not going to run across there to try and get in. You're going to stay in your lane. But yeah, run support, take your carries, don't miss any tackles. Yep,
exactly.
All right, next question. What should my diet look like while injured? My body weight is 75 kilos and I'm 6 foot tall. You can probably think of the first thing that I would say is give us more information.
Yeah.
What have you injured? You know, is it your lower body? Is it your upper body? And what have you been cleared to do? So in the future, that kind of information is a little bit more helpful. One thing I would preempt it is what was your training goal prior to getting injured? You know, if you were looking to gain weight and you're in a calorie surplus, then I would be reducing my calories down to a maintenance level. And if you were leaning down, I would bring your calories back up to a maintenance. So you would have been in a deficit, I would have bring them back up, keeping in mind that with you being less active, regardless of whether you were trying to gain or lose before, your maintenance is now going to be at a much lower level than what it was before, yeah?
Exactly.
And look, it's really important sometimes we've trained some players and they've been in the process of leaning down. Maybe the goal might have been to drop 15 kilos and they're 7.5 kilos down and they're like, oh, I want to stay in a deficit. I'm injured, so I can't run for 5 weeks, but I still want to stay in the same deficit. And they might not be able to let's say they've injured their lower body and they can't do lower body weights. It's really important to not stay in that much of a caloric deficit, because when you're injured, if you're not lifting, or at least not lifting to the same intensity that you were, your body's going to want to switch to burning off muscle tissue as much as it is fat. The thing that stops your body from doing that, like we've mentioned, is eating a sufficient amount of protein and resistance training. If you can't do that resistance training now, instead of your body going sort of 90% body fat and maybe only 5 or 10% lean tissue, it's like, brilliant. See those big chunky calves and those quads, those glutes? He doesn't need those because he's sitting down. I'm going to burn them off as energy because they're metabolically expensive to keep alive, and I'm going to hang on to that fat as long as I can because obviously there's no food around. That's essentially the way that the body responds. It doesn't know you've got a food everywhere and you're just choosing to not eat it. It thinks that there's no food around, right? And so the only reason that resistance training is helpful whilst in a caloric deficit for maintaining lean tissue is because the body thinks, well, if he's lifting that heavy thing, he must need that to get food or to get water or to fight off a predator. So we can't get rid of that muscle because he needs it to stay alive. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yep.
Anything else you want to add in there?
No, so yeah, you pretty much summed it up perfectly. Adjust your calories. Again, whatever your training priorities and whatever your goals were, adjust accordingly. You're not going to be as active.
So bring it down.
So bring them down, put them up if you need to, and focus on keeping that same body weight during the duration of your injury.
Yeah, don't get, I want to try and cut or I want to try and gain. Just try and stay where you are with that injury. I mean, look, it also depends what the injury is. If it is a longer term, maybe, I don't know, if we've got one of the boys who comes in the morning at the moment who's had a shoulder recode done, had to have some stuff fixed on his labrum. But he is now in, and he can get in a surplus because he's at the point where he can do all his lower body. So he's training lower body 4 days a week. We've got him on a bit of a different sort of a split because he can't do anything at all with his upper body at the moment. And so look, without those details, that makes it a little bit challenging. But yeah, this is what it is. Next question. If you're outside Queensland, New South Wales, New Zealand and Canberra, how do you make it to first grade? Well, let's take a step back, Sonny. How about we look at just how we look to make a rep side?
Skipped a couple steps.
Yeah, we did. But look, the pathway is the same. You've eat the apple that's in front of you, and then you can work your way up to that one. Number one, you need to be as good as you can. We've posted. There's been quite a few Joe Knows videos that I've put up. So if you haven't seen them, go and watch them in the channel about being better. A lot of people are asking how to make reps, and the answer is always be better. So that's the first thing you need to do. You need to be as good as you can be. Now, we're assuming you're playing in some kind of comp. So maybe you're in Northern Territory or Perth. I don't know if there is any rugby league in Adelaide.
I'm not too sure.
So maybe Western Australia or Northern Territory. You need to get as strong and as fit and as fast and as skillful as you can, which is where it comes in. It's like you've got to be as good as you can be. I would say put together a quality highlight reel. It's very hard to convince people to give you a crack if you don't have any evidence at all of your footballing ability and your athleticism. So apply for trials to travel to the areas that you mentioned: New South Wales, Queensland, Victoria, NZ, and trial. Hopefully, is it 26 that the Bears are supposed to be back? Yeah,
26 at the moment.
So there will be trials in Perth, in Western Australia, and they'll have a whole junior system that's coming through. I'll put it this way: Michael Jordan said that you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So you need to start taking shots. And essentially that's what we're talking about here is get good, but then you've got to start selling yourself and putting yourself out there. You've got to start asking people to watch the reel, how do I get a trial, and just keep knocking and just keep knocking, keep emailing, keep calling, DM people. So, if you've got that game film, which you need, that highlight reel, start sending that out to people on socials. DM as many player managers as you can, coaches of junior sides, trainers in junior sides, managers in junior sides, anyone who'll give you the time of day, try and do it. It reminds me, I was thinking about this, like back in the day, and this is even, did you ever buy a CD? Or when...
I was gifted CDs. I don't think I was old enough to buy them.
Yeah, right. So way back when you had sort of like the birth of the commercialization of the music industry. There'd always be some young, it could have been an individual, or it could have been a group, a band, whatever it was coming through. And at first it was records, and then it was tapes, and then it was CDs. And so that might have been one song or 2 or 3 songs from that particular group or the individual. And they would try and go around to every A-lister they could to get them to listen to it. When none of them did, then they would go to the Bs, and then they would end up with the C-listers, seeing if they could play music in some dive bar or some hole, hoping to get discovered that someone that just might, I think there's something there, I want to see a little bit more, I want to hear a little bit more. And so you've got to think of your highlight reel the same way. You've got to put it together, you've got to make it as good as you can. And then you've got to try to get that in front of as many eyeballs, hoping that someone somewhere will be like, yeah, I think there might be something there. Let's give this guy, let's give him a trial. You know what? I'll tell you what. You know who you are. I'm not saying your name publicly. A lot of people don't like it if I do that. If you have a highlight reel, DM it to me on Insta, and I will be happy to have a look at it.
Yep.
Yeah. Anything else that you want to say to someone who's outside of? Well, I'm assuming he's in Australia, but outside New South Wales, Queensland, New Zealand, Canberra.
Yeah. So the biggest thing, just be persistent, as Joe said. You know, almost annoy the people you want to see. You want the videos to be seen by, managers, agencies, teams, junior rep managers, things like that. Also, make sure your games are recorded. You know, how many times do we go, oh, they didn't have anyone there to record? If you have someone, partner, brother, sister, friend.
That's a garbage excuse.
Yeah, it's a rubbish excuse.
You know what, and this is something I'm going to do with Joe knows about it.
Yep.
Is go and get a job, buy a camera, and then pay your mate Steve $20 to come every Sunday and to film your game. Don't give me, there was no one there to film it. It's garbage.
There's plenty of ways to go.
There's always a way. That's just excuses.
That's one thing we've been preaching to a lot of the boys this year. And to be fair, they have come back with videos. And pretty good quality videos as well. And they were more surprised how good they were playing and how good the highlights came out, because now they can actually see what's went wrong, where they can improve on.
Yeah, and this isn't just like filming, getting your game film. You should be sitting there every week and going through and analysing what it is that you do. And then in the process, the secondary benefit is you now get clips that you can edit and put together for a highlight reel.
Exactly. And one last thing is, because you're outside New South Wales, there's definitely not as many eyeballs, or outside of those 4 places, there's not as many eyeballs as what you'd think there would be on you. So once you've emailed, keep emailing, but be patient. You know, you're not going to get a response overnight, and nothing's going to happen overnight. It might take a week or 2. Or
sometimes someone will send me a DM, and it might be like 9:30 at night. And you know, for people who don't know, I usually get up about 3:30 in the morning. So usually 9:30 I go to sleep. Someone's sending, and then they'll send 2 question marks at 10:15, and then they'll send another question mark at 11:30, and they're like, "Why aren't you answering me?" And it's like, yeah, we'll get to it. And it's the same thing. A lot of these people are very, very busy, and they've got a lot of priorities. But like Cal said, be persistent with it, and I think you'll end up in the right spot. Sweet, I think that's done. What do we need to tell them to do?
Please like, follow, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. If you have any questions, please DM the Instagram page. Joe will be answering them.
I will be answering those personally.
As much detail as you can.
Heights, weights, if you're injured, tell us what the injury is, all those kinds of things. Other than that, we will see you in the next one.
Thank you.